Okay, picking up at the idea of centralized worship and government, we talked a bit a moment ago about the pilgrimage feasts, how they are now centralized into Jerusalem, as is the judicial system and the idea of where the king would live. The idea of the Levitical priests and the Levites becomes more important here. And also we have the rise of prophets, which prior to this we didn't really need. We had Moses, who's the primary prophet in the Old Testament, but at the death of Moses and the centralization of the other sorts of features of society, we end up needing intermediaries, and the prophets begin to show up. Okay. Now, there are several covenant ceremonies, and I would recommend that you go to these texts and read them. There's one at Shechem, there's one in the land of Moab, and there's one to talk about the deposit and reading of the law every 7 years during the Feast of Tabernacles. So this was prescribed that the law would come out and be reread. So those are interesting sets of texts that we have not really gone through and discussed too much. There is then at the end of the book the question about how could Moses write this book and still sort of write down his whole own death. And the important part about that is that it is possible that somebody else did write that part. Okay, so we can look into the idea of who wrote the book of Deuteronomy. But the main issue that we have now is that this is the book that we have canonized, and it shows up in this particular way for a reason. And so in this class, I choose not to get too involved with the idea that Moses was predicting or writing about his own death. But the issue is that that was the point at which Moses ceased to be the leader of the Israelites as he saw them off across the Jordan. So I hope you enjoy your look into Deuteronomy and have plenty of time to kind of read through some of these texts, maybe if not now, perhaps later on as part of your Read Through the Bible kind of program, because reading the entire book altogether actually makes a lot of sense. So as usual, if you have any questions or comments, please do use the question box or send me an email. And otherwise, I'll look forward to hearing from you and reading some more of your posts during the week this week. Thanks very much. Talk to you soon.